Hello and welcome to Witch Ways. Today we're going to talk about how to make a Samhain altar, how to safely create it, make sure it's strong, powerful, and protected. Enjoy today's video and remember to like and subscribe. An altar is a gate or portal into magic. It can bring magic into your space. It can take magic out into the world or other realms. It can be something that helps you manifest creatively. So it's really helpful to know what your purpose is when you're creating an altar. Samhain altars have a few different themes. One is very obviously honoring those who have gone before, our beloved dead, the ancestors, the familiar, friends and family members who have passed. The other theme is that the veil is thin between the worlds. Another theme is that it's a harvest festival, the last of the 3 harvest festivals of Britain and the Celtic Isles and Western European traditions. And it is also a gate into the dark half of the year, the bottom half, winter's season. All these themes could be represented. It's important before you start to think about what themes call to you and how much you want them represented on your altar. That's a great place to start. Start by clearing and cleaning your altar space. Samhain is a powerful time of year, so clear it physically and clear it magically. You can do this by burning herbs, washing it or sprinkling it with water, or washing it with herbal teas. The next thing you can do is to put some kind of symbol of protection on the surface that you're going to use for your altar. That can be dipping your finger in water and drawing that protective symbol on the surface. You can powder herbs and use them to create that symbol. I often use a pentacle, that's fine. You can also draw that protective symbol on a piece of paper, or literally just write the words that you feel are protective on that piece of paper, or deity or beings' names that you work with, and then just place it on the surface of the altar underneath the cloth that you're going to put on top. Any way that you create an altar is fine. It's yours. It should reflect who you are. However, to add some strength and depth magically to the altar, there's a few things you can do. One of the things you can do is to call on and create an underlying magical structure that is reflected in the way that your altar looks physically. So one example of that is calling on the powers of the underworld, the middle human world, and the overworld. The way that I do that is to create various levels and heights on my altar using bricks, boards, boxes, anything I can use to just give some varying levels. I'll even use the floor around the altar. I also really often use tables, and so when I do that, underneath the table represents the underworld, and so I'll put objects there that represent that to me. That might be a weaving or a basket to represent the mycelial net. It might be rocks or obsidian to represent the deep earth. It might be bones to represent those ancestors that are in the earth. And that's just the way I do it. Again, you can do it however you like. I put some in the middle. I'll put things that represent the human world, and then I'll represent above at the highest levels things that I associate with sky or the overworld. At Samhain, altars really take over my house. Every available surface is covered with an actual altar or something resembling an altar. Once you've cleared your physical space and gathered together something to create a structure for your or a base for your altar, then you can start gathering things that you want to be on it. I think it's really helpful to have way more stuff than you're actually going to put on your altar. That way you can be more intuitive and creative in the moment and play with it until it's something that you actually like. For Samhain, some of the things that you might add could be pictures of ancestors, pictures of your beloved dead, pictures of pets or familiars, maybe even their ashes if you have them. And I would say that there is absolutely no obligation to put up pictures of ancestors that were really difficult or abusive or harmful or you just simply don't like. It's your altar. You get to choose what's on it. You can make a list of some of your beloved dead, your ancestors, and then write at the bottom, what is remembered lives, and decorate it. You'll probably want to have a place to put offerings of food, drink, and somewhere to burn incense, powdered herbs to your ancestors on the altar. You might place on objects that they own, and you might want to put on some objects somewhere around your house or on the altar that honor witches of the past. Carved pumpkins are currently used to represent the spirits that are present, both ancestral and otherwise, at this time of year. Prior to colonization of the Americas by Europeans, Europeans in their own lands used a large wrinkled root that was closely related to beet to represent the spirits and ancestors that were walked abroad during the Samhain season. Pumpkins can represent both the spirits of the other worlds, and they can also represent the harvest, which is another main theme of Samhain. Apples can do the same. In Western European cultures, apples were considered to be strongly magical, and one of the names for the place where the ancestors lived was called the Isle of Apples. I also like nuts and autumn leaves to represent the seasonal harvest on the altar. And another thing about them is that they don't spoil and they hold their shape, and they're one less thing that you have to tend on your altar. Once you've gathered everything and created the structure, you can lay your cloths down. I this time used a white semi-sheer cloth to represent the thinning veil at this time of year. I also used a black cloth to represent the gate into winter and the dark and the underworld. I also like to have a few heat-proof bowls to burn paper written with things that I'm releasing. You can also dot that with dark moon water. Bones can be used on the altar to represent the underworld or the dead. They can also help us connect to the spirits of those who have passed over. The Celts believed that the soul resided in the skull, and so heads in general and skulls were highly valued. So if you're comfortable with that, you could have something that represents skulls on your altar. I would say that it would be unethical to use representations of skulls that are from the art or culture of indigenous people of this continent. That's something that belongs to them. I also don't use actual human bones for real obvious legal and ethical reasons, but there's also a really important magical reason not to use human bones, and that's because unless you know that person really well, your communications and magic are going to be filtered through who that person was in this life. Samhain is an amazing time for divination work. And so I like to put my tools that I use in divination, things like cards, maybe dice, scrying wells, mirrors, pendulum, dowsing rods on my altar, at least for a while, to get charged up with the energy of this season. You can also put candles on your altar. I think that having light in some form is important on altars. And typical colors are usually black and white. Some people include red. Personally, I just really like beeswax. It's a lot less toxic and I prefer using that. Once everything is set up, clear your whole altar energetically and all the things you've put on it by burning some herbs or some other way. Draw a circle around it, or a circle and a pentacle, and imagine in your mind or feel or intuit, whatever way works for you, that that circle or that pentacle is protecting that altar. You can use your hands to draw the pentacle and the circle. I think it's helpful to have a comfortable place near your altar where you can stand or sit to do some work with your altar as the season progresses. And then all you have to do is tend your altar, make sure it stays clean, replace offerings. I like to spend at least a minute or two a day with my altar, even if all I'm doing is just noticing it, taking a minute to let my energy settle, and taking a few breaths. Appropriate to Samhain, the community tab on my channel got activated because I hit 1,000 subscribers. Yay! And so what that means is I'm going to be posting some fun things there for people to see, like online polls about what you'd like to see, topics you'd like to see in the future, and things like that. So check out my posts under the community tab on my channel page, and also look in the description for any upcoming events and my equity and witchy resources. Enjoy this very special season. Happy Samhain and be well.